AI never sleeps, and this week has been absolutely insane. We have an AI that can generate images with different layers. We have another AI that can generate videos that explain math and science like this, including the voiceover.
Arrow. Notice how the gradient vector changes magnitude and direction.
We have a new open source video generator that beats everything else. We have an insanely realistic 3D scene generator. GPT 4.5 and Claude 3.7 was just released this week. We have some insane humanoid robot demos and a lot more, so let's jump right in. First up, we have a new AI called Riflex. This is a new technique for extending the length of videos without losing any quality. I know a lot of folks complain about the fact that most AI video generators can only create clips that are like 4 to 5 seconds long, so you can't really do much with it. Well, this tool magically solves this problem. In fact, they call this a free lunch, and here's why. Let's say you have a video of like 5 seconds long. You can just plug it into this AI and it'll magically extend the video to 10 seconds. This is also known as 2x extrapolation, so you're extending it by 2 times. The best part is this technique is completely training free, so it doesn't need any further training or training data to work. It can just make a video longer without needing to learn from a bunch of other videos. So here are some examples where the original video is 5 seconds long, and after plugging it through this, it will extend the video to 10 seconds. Here's another example of a cat running through this dense garden. And again, the original video is only 5 seconds, but after passing it through this, it seamlessly extends it to 10 seconds. And it also works for anime. So here's an example of that. Again, the first 5 seconds are the original video, and the last 5 seconds are the extension. Now, although you can do this without training the model further, you can also fine-tune the model to make it look even better. So that means it can also be trained on a small amount of data to improve its performance. So here it says, if you further train this model, then the dynamic quality and visual quality are further improved. So below are some examples of video extension, but with fine-tuning. Here we have a 3D animated video, and you can see again, it handles the extension pretty well. Here's another example. And you can barely notice what part is the original video, what part is the extension. Like, the transition is really seamless. It even works with this Minecraft-like generation. So this is super flexible and versatile. You can use it to extend videos of any style. The best part is, if you scroll up to the top of the page, the code is already out. So they released a GitHub repo. And note that this is just a framework. You can plug any video generation model into this. So the examples I showed you were using Hunyuan, but you can also use Cogvideo X, or also the newest Wan 2.1, which we'll go over in a second. Plus, this is already supported in Comfy UI. So if you're using Hunyuan, then you can already use Riflex to extend videos using this Comfy UI Hunyuan video wrapper component, which I've gone over in this video. Check this out if you want to learn how to use Hunyuan in Comfy UI. Anyways, the instructions on how to use Riflex are all on this GitHub repo. All the links are up here, so I'll link to this main page in the description below for you to read further. Alright, next up, this AI is super cool. It's called ART, which stands for Anonymous Region Transformer, and this can generate images with multiple layers. The layers can even be transparent, so this allows for much finer post-editing. You can move these individual elements around afterwards if you want. So here are some examples, and then I'm going to show you a live demo in a second. So you can get an AI to create this entire poster, but this can actually be separated into different elements. So we have this background, and then we have all this text as transparent layers, plus this image. Here's another example where the AI can not only generate this final image, but it also generates all these elements in separate layers. Here's a really nice looking poster. Again, all these elements can be separated into transparent layers. Anyways, let's try this out right now. So they've released a free Hugging Face demo, and here's how it works. You would first enter a prompt describing your image. So let's say I enter in this prompt, which basically generates a happy anniversary poster. You can specify the font of the text. So here I want this to be bold sans serif. Below this banner, there's a circular frame containing a photograph of a couple. Surrounding the frame are decorative elements such as pink flowers and green leaves. Below the frame, there's a text that reads Isabel and Morgan. And then below that, there's a message that says, "Happy anniversary, cheers to another year of love, laughter, and cherished memories together," etc., etc. So after you enter a prompt, let's click commit first. You can also just click this one click generate all, which would do all the steps, but I want to show you what this does step by step. So after clicking commit, it basically runs this prompt through this anonymous region layout planner, which figures out how to position and organize all of these elements into the image and how to place them into different layers. So afterwards, this step basically generates a set of box coordinates. And then if you scroll down a bit, the coordinates are then copied onto here. And then when we press commit, this is basically the image generation stage. So it runs your prompt and the coordinates through this image generator to generate the final images with all the elements positioned at these coordinates. And afterwards, here's the resulting design. So here's the final image, but it actually consists of multiple elements. So here's the background, here's the image, here are some flowers at the top, some decorations here, and then the text plus the text over here. And if you add all of this together, here's your final image. The nice thing is you can download all of these separately and then plug them into a photo editor to edit everything further. So for example, you can drag all this text around, you can drag the image around, everything is directly editable. You can resize this text if you want. So this tool is super useful. I think this might eventually replace Canva. Instead of manually creating these designs and then dragging and dropping everything, changing the fonts, etc., you can just prompt an AI to do everything for you. Now, in addition to the Hugging Face demo, they also have a GitHub repo. And if you scroll down, this already contains all the code necessary to download and run this locally on your computer. Anyways, I'll link to this page in the description below for you to read further. Next up, we have a really cool 3D model generator. It's called CAST, which stands for Component Aligned 3D Scene Reconstruction from an Image. But wait a minute, where does the T come from? Anyways, this AI can recreate an entire 3D scene just from one image. So here's how it works. First, it looks at your input image and figures out what objects are in it. So for example, here it has detected a guitar, a cooler, a van, a surfboard, etc. It then creates a 3D model of each object in the scene. And even if some parts of the object are obstructed in the image, this AI is able to guess what those parts would look like and fill in the blanks. And finally, it also makes sure the objects in the scene interact realistically with each other. So how it does that is it maps the relationships of the objects in the scene using a relation graph. So for example, here the guitar is leaning on the cooler and the wetsuit is hanging from the van, and so on and so forth. From this relation graph, it also generates a constraint graph, which kind of optimizes the poses of all the objects and ensures physical consistency. So after merging all these steps together, it can then create a really accurate 3D scene from the image, as you can see in these examples. Now, there are still some subtle minor flaws in each of these generations if you look closely, but the fact that this AI is able to generate a 3D scene just from one image and even accurately generate the back of these scenes, which it kind of just has to guess and make up, this is pretty mind-blowing to me. Anyways, if you scroll to the top of the page, it does say the code is coming soon, so it looks like they are going to open source this. For now, I'll link to this main page in the description below for you to read further. Next up, this is super exciting. So Alibaba just released Wan 2.1. This is by far the best open source video generator you can use right now. Interestingly, this used to be called Wanks, but I think that's why they changed it to Wan instead. Anyways, this model is seriously impressive, as you can see in these examples. It can create really consistent dance videos like this, and it has a really good understanding of human anatomy and motion. Here's another impressive demo of a dance, so you can see it's really good at understanding these complex motions. And it can even pull off a fight scene like this. Note that even the top commercial models cannot generate a fight scene consistently and realistically. This is insanely impressive. Plus, it can understand physics very well. So here's a dog cutting this tomato, and look at how accurate it slices the tomato. Even most of the top commercial models cannot get this correct. Here's an example of some Disney Pixar 3D animation. It handles this beautifully, even though the scene is very complex and detailed. And even this explosion underwater looks super realistic. And there's even more you can do with this. So you can even use this as like a control net. So you can input one scene and then translate the motion and structure of that scene to a new generation, like this. Or you can also transfer the posture of one scene to a new scene. Or you can also do inpainting. So for example, you can select this lion and replace it with a bear. And you can also do outpainting. If this is your original video, you can actually get this to extend the sides of the video and add an additional violin player on the right and a pianist on the left. Super impressive. Plus, you can also input reference images of characters or objects which you want to insert into your video. So a very flexible tool. And the best part is this can do image to video. So you can just input this image of an Eiffel Tower as the starting frame and then generate this video with fireworks in the sky. And not only can you just upload one image, you can upload two images, one for the start frame and one for the end frame. And it would magically generate a video from that. The awesome thing is the models are already out on Hugging Face or ModelScope for you to download. So they've released 4 models so far. There are 2 text-to-video models. One is 14 billion parameters, which supports both 480p and 720p, and then a smaller version of 1.3 billion parameters, which can generate videos of 480p. And the nice thing about this one, this smaller 1.3 billion parameter model, is that it only requires around 8 gigabytes of VRAM, making it compatible with most consumer-grade GPUs. And then they've also released 2 image-to-video models. These are the models that allow you to upload an image as the start and end frame. Now, both of these are 14 billion parameters, but one can support 720p and the other one can support 480p. This one, of course, runs a lot faster. And here's some other good news. So not only did they release a Gradio demo, which is a graphical interface where you can use this so you don't have to work with code in a terminal, they've also released a Comfy UI integration for both text-to-video and image-to-video. So you can easily integrate it into your Comfy UI workflow right now. Super exciting. In fact, let me know in the comments below. Do you want me to do a full tutorial on how to get this up and running on Comfy UI? If there's enough interest, I might do a full video. And best of all, this is under the Apache 2 license, which means you can do pretty much anything you want with it, including commercial usage. And just to show you how good this is, if you look at this video model leaderboard called VBench, and then you rank this by total score, note that the latest version of WAN 2.1 is currently at the top. It even beats Sora and Luma, Minimax, and Gen 3, which are all closed source and commercial models. So this is insanely impressive. Anyways, all the links are up here, so I'll link to this GitHub page in the description below for you to read further. Next up, we have a really useful way for you to rank AI models. Now, if you've been following my channel, you'll know that I usually look at multiple leaderboards and benchmarks to see how good an AI model is. However, most of these benchmarks aren't really relevant to what I really want to know. For example, what if I just want to find the best AI model for coding, or for learning, or for planning a vacation? Well, finally, we have this new platform called Prompt to Leaderboard, which is a real-time leaderboard tailored to specific use cases. In other words, you can input a prompt, so for example, let's write "be inappropriate from now on," and then press enter, and then you would get a leaderboard that ranks all these AI models specifically for that prompt. So if you're looking for like inappropriate chats, then it looks like these models like Mixtral and Dolphin would be the best. Plus, it includes the license in this column so you can know what you can and cannot do with it. Or here's another example. What if you want to find out the best AI to help you plan a vacation? So let's click send, and then here are the new rankings based on this prompt. So apparently, if you want to get an AI to plan a 5-day trip to Hawaii, Then O1 Mini would be the best model, followed by Gemini 2.0, Flash Thinking Experimental, followed by Grok 3. Or what if you wanted to give you some code for this 3D visualization? Well, let's click send and see what that gives us. And if we do that, then the leader is O3 Mini High, followed by Grok 3, followed by O1 Preview. Now note that Claude 3.7 isn't on this leaderboard yet, but once it's added, I would suspect for coding tasks like this, it would be in the top 3 spots. Anyways, I hope you can see how useful this leaderboard is. It's completely free to use. I'll link to it in the description below. Again, it's called Prompt to Leaderboard. You're gonna love this. I'm partnering with NVIDIA to give away an RTX 5, but an RTX 6000 Ada. This has a whopping 48 gigabytes of VRAM, which can easily run the best AI models locally on your computer. Plus, it's personally signed by Jensen Huang. This is one of a kind, and it could be yours. Simply attend any session in their upcoming GTC event, which is taking place March 17th to 21st this year, both in person in San Jose, California, and virtually. This is a global conference covering a wide range of topics from AI to robotics to computing. There's going to be a ton of talks from the top industry leaders and experts, so you're going to get so much value from this. You can register to attend virtually for free. I highly recommend the keynote by Jensen Huang on March 18th. He's going to share a ton of insights on AI, agents, robotics, and computing. Here are some other sessions that I'm personally really interested in. On March 19th, there's going to be a talk on humanoid robots, which is super exciting. And then on March 20th, this talk on quantum computing will also be super insightful. Jensen will host this talk with a ton of industry leaders in the space, so you can get the most up-to-date overview of what's going on in quantum computing. Alright, so back to the RTX 6000 Ada giveaway. How exactly do you enter this? Simply click the link in the description below and you'll see all the instructions on how to enter. Now back to the video. Next up, this is probably the most useful AI in this video. It's called Theorem Explain Agent, and this can generate videos to explain complex concepts in math and science. And not only does it generate an animation, but it also generates a voiceover explaining the entire concept. So here are a few examples. Here's a chemistry example explaining this method, which I don't even know how to pronounce.
Let's begin with the digestion stage. Notice the custom-designed flask, structured to facilitate even heating and efficient mixing of reagents. The reagent indicators represent the acid and catalyst essential to breaking down organic materials. Next, observe the distillation stage. Here, a round bottom flask connects to a condenser via a curved tube, guiding vapor flow efficiently. This mechanism separates nitrogen compounds from the digest. Finally, the titration stage is presented. The burette, depicted here, releases titrant in a controlled manner. Every drop counts in quantifying the nitrogen concentration.
Now the video is over 5 minutes long, so I'm just gonna play, the first few seconds for you. If you're interested in watching the full video, I'll link to this page in the description below. Anyways, here's a physics example. Again, this video is super long, it's over 6 minutes. Here I'm just showing you the first few seconds.
Welcome to Scene 1. Introduction to Geometric Brownian Motion. As the title appears at the top of your screen, note how this concept stands at the heart of many models in finance and physics. Geometric Brownian motion, or GBM, is a continuous time stochastic process. This means that it describes systems that evolve continuously over time, influenced by both predictable trends and random fluctuations. Let's break down its key components. Now, observe the stock chart emerging in the bottom right of your screen. Notice how the line, with its minor random fluctuations, mirrors how stock prices might move over a trading day. This visualization bridges abstract stochastic processes with tangible market behavior. Welcome to Scene 2, Brownian Motion Basics. In this part, we'll explore the core idea behind the random, yet continuous motion that underpins many models in finance and physics.
Here's a computer science example which teaches you about gradient descent. This is a very important term in AI and machine learning, by the way.
Welcome to this introduction to gradient descent, a cornerstone optimization algorithm in machine learning. To understand gradient descent, imagine a graph like this one. The x-axis represents parameters, and the y-axis shows the loss associated with those parameters. Here, we add a loss function, a curve that tells us how good or bad our parameter choices are. Our goal is to reach the lowest point on this curve, where the loss is minimized. Now, let's see gradient descent in action. We start here at a high loss value. The algorithm takes small steps, following the slope of the curve, gradually moving downward.
I mean, this tool is so useful in helping people learn complex concepts in math and science. Especially if you're an audio or visual learner, this is an absolute game changer. Now, here's how it works. Its architecture consists of two agents. First of all, you would input whatever theorem or concept you want it to explain, and then it would go through this planner agent, which creates a plan for the video, including the script, the storyboard, and the visuals. Then this will be passed to this code agent, which generates the code to create the video. It uses a tool called Manum, which basically helps create these visualizations. The nice thing is, this is just an agent framework, and you can plug any AI model into this. And they've actually tested a bunch of AI models, like GPT-4o, Claude 3.5, Gemini 2, and o3 Mini. And here are the results. In terms of the success rate in generating complete videos, note that the winner here is o3 Mini. So it's able to generate a complete video over 90% of the time, whereas the performance of all these non-thinking models are pretty bad. Like, most of them have a success rate of under 50%. And then here are some other quality metrics. So in terms of accuracy and depth, interestingly, Gemini 2.0 Flash was the best performer. In terms of visual relevance, then Claude 3.5 Sonnet was the best. And then here are the winners for logical flow, and then here's the winner for visual consistency. So interestingly, Claude 3.5 Sonnet, although it had the lowest success rate, it had the highest overall score in terms of video quality. Now, if you scroll to the top of the page, it looks like they've already released the training dataset on Hugging Face. And then if you click into this GitHub repo, it looks like they've only added this yesterday, so it seems like it's still under construction, but here it does say this repo will contain the codebase for our paper. So it looks like they are going to open source this under the MIT license. Once they do, again, I think this will be a game changer in learning these tough math and science concepts, especially if you're an audio and visual learner. Anyways, I'll link to this main page in the description below for you to read further. Next up, robotics company Unitree has released a new demo this week, which looks insane. So apparently they've trained their G1 humanoid robot to do kungfu now. Heck, I can't even do the spinning kick. Now, some of you might think this is fake or CGI, but I really can't point out any indications from this video. The video looks totally real, and Unitree does have a good record of producing insanely versatile and acrobatic robots. For example, last week they published this video showing the same robot, the G1, dancing super realistically and naturally. And this also looks completely real to me. They've even added a mirror in the background to prove its authenticity. Plus, this G1 robot can already run super quickly like this. Imagine if this robot was programmed to kill you and it's chasing you down. So yeah, apparently this week they've trained this robot to now be able to do kung fu and crazy spinning kicks like this. Who knows what it could do next week? Next up, Hailuo has released an image-to-video director model. Now, I covered this director mode feature before in a previous video, which allows you to control the camera movement of the scene. And of course, this would be really useful if you want ultimate control of, how the scene moves. However, previously, this was only for text to video, which is not ideal. What if you want to generate a video of a certain character or a certain item? Wouldn't it be great if we can also have this director feature for image to video? Well, that's exactly what was released this week, so let's try it out right now. If you log in or sign up to Hailuo for free, you can click on Image to Video, and then let's drag and drop an image onto here. So I'm going to drop in this image generated by AI, and then I don't really need to specify any prompt unless I want to get her to do something. So let's just leave this blank, but we are going to click on this camera icon to select a camera movement. And there are many camera movements to choose from. Let's go with this upward tilt. So notice If I select this, it's going to add in these keywords in the prompt, push in and pedestal up. So for the scene, it's going to push in and then pedestal up. Let's click generate and see what we get. Alright, so here's our generation. And indeed, it is kind of pushing in and then pedestaling up, as you can see here. Very nice. Let's try something else. Let's say you need to create a car commercial for the Honda Civic. Well, you can simply just upload an existing photo of the Honda Civic, and then again, let's just select this camera icon here, and then this time let's do right circling, which looks something like this. So I'm going to select that, and notice that it's going to add in these keywords into the prompt. Truck right, pan left, tracking shot. So let's click generate and see what that gives us. Alright, so here's our generation. So not only can you generate a video from a photo, but you can also now specify how the camera moves in this scene. And indeed, it is circling to the right. Let's try one more example. So I'm going to upload another image of a Honda Civic, and then let's click this camera icon again. Let's select right circling again. So I want the camera to kind of orbit to the right as this car drives along the road. So again, after I selected right circling, it inserts these keywords into the prompt, and that's pretty much it. You could add more to the prompt to describe how the scene looks like, but we're just going to leave it like this and see what we get. Let's click generate. Alright, and here's our generation. Very nice. It is indeed orbiting to the right as the car drives along this road. You can see how anyone can now easily create product commercials from this. So I'll link to Hailuo in the description below. I think when you join, you get a ton of free credits to start, plus you get some free daily credits, which allows you to generate a few videos for free every day. Next up, we have a new AI called SynCD. This basically allows you to upload reference images of any object or character you like to insert in your image, and then you would use a prompt to describe what you want to create, and it would add this object or character in the image. And everything looks very consistent with your reference images. So here are some examples. Let's say you upload these 3 reference images of this anime figure, and then you prompt it with an action figure in Times Square. This is what you get. Notice it preserves the original pose and design of the figure, including his robe, his hair, and how his face looks. Or if you prompt it with an action figure riding a motorcycle, again, it's able to preserve the overall look and design of this character. Here's another example. If you upload reference images of this duck, notice that it could be in different angles and different lighting conditions, it doesn't really matter. And then you prompt it with a toy with a tree and autumn leaves in the background. This is what you get. Or you can also write a toy on top of a purple rug in a forest, and here's your result. Or you can upload 3 reference images of this boot, and then prompt it with a boot with a city in the background, and indeed it can generate this same boot, but with a city in the background. And this looks exactly like the boot that was uploaded. Or here's a boot with a blue house in the background. So you can see how this tool can be super useful for product photography. You no longer need to hire a photographer and set everything up in order to shoot various products. You can just plug some reference images of the product into this AI. Here's another example. If you plug these 3 reference images and then you write a toy on the beach, it indeed generates this same toy, but on the beach. Notice the design looks exactly the same as the reference images. Or if you prompt it with a toy in the snow, here's your result. So this is very accurate and high fidelity. And notice you don't need to upload multiple reference images, although that would give you a more accurate result. You can also just get away with inputting 1 reference image. And note that this new SynCD method, which is the column on the left, this is way more accurate compared to other alternatives. The nice thing is, if you scroll up to the top of the page, they have a Hugging Face demo and a GitHub repo with all the code. So let's try out the Hugging Face demo first. It's pretty straightforward to use, so here is where you would enter in a prompt. Here is where you can upload 1 or multiple reference images of your object. So for example, let's say we upload these 3 images of this anime figure, and then we write an action figure on top of a mountain, sunset in the background, realistic shot. And then here are some settings you might be familiar with if you've been playing around with Flux or Stable Diffusion. Guidance scale basically means how much you want your generation to follow your prompt. So if you drag this to the right, it would follow your prompt more literally. If you drag this to the left, it would be more creative. And then inference steps is how many steps you want this to run before outputting an image. So in general, the more steps you have, the higher quality your image would be. But at a certain point, you're going to get diminishing returns. So it's best to just leave this at the default of 30 steps. Anyways, indeed, that is what we get. We get the same figure with the same design and pose, but now it's on top of a mountain with a sunset in the background. Or here's another example. Let's say we upload these 3 images of a penguin plushie, and then we write, the penguin plushie is wearing pink sunglasses, lounging on a beach, realistic shot. Well, here is what we get. It is indeed at the beach with some pink sunglasses. Now, if we go back to the main page, they've also released a GitHub repo. And if you scroll down here, it contains all the instructions on how to download and run this locally on your computer. Anyways, all the links are up here, including the technical paper and more examples, so I'll link to this page in the description below for you to read further. Next up, we have a really cool AI called Diception. This can basically take an image and do various perception tasks. For example, it can estimate the depth of the image. So if you plug in these images, it can very accurately generate a depth map of these images. And it can also do normal estimation. This is basically estimating the orientation of surfaces in the image. And notice most of these scenes are very complex. For example, there are a ton of items for these images, but it's able to estimate the normal or the surface orientation of all of these objects pretty accurately for all these images. It can also do what is called entity segmentation. This is basically identifying and separating different objects in an image. So let's say you have a basket of eggs. Notice that it can segment each egg and the basket very accurately. Here's an even tougher scene. So we have a ton of baguettes and pastries in this scene. It's quite messy, but it's able to segment everything very well. Same with the scene of clocks or this scene of multiple people. Even the humans in the background, which are quite dark and hard to see, it's able to segment everyone very well. Speaking of segmentation, it can also do semantic segmentation, where you specify the objects you want it to separate. For example, if you say wine glass, then it's only going to segment the wine glasses in this image. Or if you prompt it with banana, it's only going to segment the bananas in this image. Here's an impressive example. So if you prompt it with person, notice it only segments the people in this scene, including this guy in the background, but it omits all these other objects like the camera in this guy's hand, as well as the surfboards, and also the objects that this guy and the kid are holding. So a very accurate and powerful tool for segmentation. Here's another tricky example where if you prompt it with orange, it knows to segment this orange here and then this orange over here, but it knows to ignore like the apples and the other fruits in this image. Finally, it can also estimate the poses of everyone in the image. So here are some examples of that. Even if you have a lot of people in the scene like this in various poses, it's able to handle this very well. Same with this scene of the snowboarder, it's able to estimate his pose very accurately. Even if this guy is kind of obstructed in the background, it's still able to estimate the poses of all these characters very well. By the way, if you do use this for segmentation, it's also really good at preserving details such as hair and fur. If you've been playing around with Photoshop back in the days, you'll probably know how annoyingly hard it is to segment stuff like this. But this new AI makes it a breeze. Plus, you can also fine-tune this model to do other tasks, such as brightening an image or even segmenting medical images. The awesome thing is, it only requires a small dataset of around 50 photos, and this would be enough for the model to learn how to do whatever task you're teaching it. Anyways, if you scroll up to the top, they have a Hugging Face demo. So let's try this out. At the top here is where you can select the task you want it to perform. So let's try depth first, and then I'm going to upload this image of a Honda Civic and then press run. Note that this Hugging Face space is completely free to use and it's quite fast. Perfect, so here's our depth map. Now next we can also do, let's say, semantic segmentation. And then here we need to describe what we want to segment. We don't want to segment everything. So let's type car in here and then click run. And here's what we get. Note that it accurately segmented only the car in this image. Let's uncheck this. And then here's another cool example called point segmentation. So this basically segments the object based on where you place points in the image. So for example, let's upload this image, and let's say you only want to segment Will Smith in this image. Now, because we checked point segmentation, you can add up to 5 points in this image, showing it what you want to segment. So let me just click on here, and then I'll click on here. Let's click on here again. So up to 5 points. I think this is good enough. Let's try something like this, and then click run and see what that gives us. Perfect. So as you can see, it has correctly segmented Will Smith only. So this is another useful feature. Using point segmentation, you can click on whichever part of the image you want to isolate, and it would magically do that for you. Anyways, all the links are up here, so I'll link to this page in the description below. Next up, this AI is really cool. It's called Mobius, and this can generate videos that can seamlessly loop forever, just from a text description. You just need to describe the scene, and Mobius will create a video of this in a continuous loop. So here are some examples. Here we're prompting it with a koala chewing on some leaves. At the top corner is the frame count. So notice that this will go up to 50 and then it'll go back to 1, which means it's looping again from the beginning. But notice how it's impossible to tell this transition from the end to the start of the clip. This is super seamless, and if you just keep playing this video without this frame count, you pretty much won't be able to tell that this is looping. So this is a really nice way to create endless looping videos. Here's another example showing this video of a blender blending some fruits into a smoothie. And again, the frame count is on the top left corner. Notice that as it reaches 50 and goes back to 1, the transition is completely seamless. Again, it's pretty much impossible to tell that this is looping. Okay, this one is interesting. So here's a woman running on the beach. Let's see if it can create a looping video from this. And yes, it can. Very impressive. All right, here's another tricky example. Here's a dude skiing. Let's see if it can create a seamless looping video. And again, the transition is absolutely seamless. Very impressive. The nice thing is you can even specify how long each loop is. So for example, on the left is a loop with 50 frames. In other words, there are 50 frames before it repeats, whereas in the middle, it's going to be 100 frames before the video repeats. And then in the last video, it's going to be 150 frames before it loops. So this gives you a lot of flexibility. Here's another example showing fireworks. Again, on the left, one loop is 50 frames, in the middle, one loop is 100 frames, and then on the right, one loop is 150 frames. Notice that even for something as complex as fireworks, the transition, or basically the loop, is absolutely seamless. At least for me, it's pretty much impossible to tell when this video actually loops back from the beginning. Anyways, there are a lot more examples on this page for you to check out, so I'll link to this main page in the description below. Next up, one of my favorite image generators, Ideogram, has released a new model. It's called Ideogram 2A, and this is faster, more affordable, but just as powerful. You can generate premium designs with text and photorealistic images in just seconds, and it also costs fewer credits to use. So let's try this out right now. You can log in or sign up to Ideogram for free, and then let's prompt it with this. Taylor Swift holding a sign that says, "Subscribe to AI search." Notice if you sign up, I think you get 10 credits to start, plus it refreshes every week. So you can still generate images on the free plan. And then over here, notice that if you use 2.0, it costs 1 credit. But if you use 2A, then it only costs 0.5 credits. So you can generate 2 times as many images from this. And then let's choose realistic. For the aspect ratio, let's go with 1:1, and then click generate. And here is our result. So here's the first generation. It did miss an eye here. Here's the second generation. This looks exactly like Taylor Swift, and the text is correct. Here's the third generation. Again, super realistic. That indeed looks like Taylor Swift, and the text is correct. And then here's our final generation. Anyways, a super powerful image generator. I'll link to Ideogram in the description below. Also this week, OpenAI released their long-awaited model, GPT 4.5, and this by far crushes everything in terms of price. So you can see here, the cost per 1 million tokens is way higher than the other models like O3 Mini and DeepSeek. Plus, it's only available in the Pro plan, which costs $200 a month. Now, while the price is quite shocking, its intelligence is quite underwhelming. They claim that 4.5 is better than its predecessor, GPT 4o, in terms of everyday queries, professional queries, and creative intelligence. But I wonder why they didn't include other models here like Claude 3.7 or Grok 3 or DeepSeek R1. They also claim that 4.5 has higher EQ, which can be subjective, but nevertheless, here's an example. So if you prompt 4.5 with, "I'm going through a tough time after failing a test," here's the answer. "I'm really sorry to hear that. Failing a test can feel pretty tough and discouraging, but remember, it's just one moment, not a reflection of who you are or your capabilities. Want to talk about what happened? Or do you just need a distraction? I'm here either way." And then here's GPT-4o's response. "I'm really sorry to hear that you're going through a tough time. Here are a few things you might consider." And then it gives you all these steps. Now, like I said, EQ is quite subjective, but let me know in the comments below, which response do you prefer? In addition, they've released some performance metrics, but they're only comparing this to their own models like GPT-4o and O3 Mini High. Also note that GPT 4.5, even though it's way more expensive, it couldn't even beat O3 Mini High in terms of graduate level science questions or this AIME benchmark. Notice the huge difference. O3 Mini got 87%, whereas 4.5 only got 36%. Same with this SWE bench. This is a benchmark for coding. Again, note that O3 Mini got 61%, whereas 4.5 only got 38%. Now, on this table, they're only comparing 4.5 with OpenAI's own models. So instead, let's look at some other leaderboards to see how this compares with other competitor models. If you look at this leaderboard live bench by Abacus AI, note that 4.5 is all the way down here in 7th place, even behind DeepSeek R1 and Grok 3 Thinking, and Claude 3.5 Sonnet Thinking. It does, however, beat Google's Gemini models and also the regular non-thinking version of Claude 3.7. Here's a graph by another independent evaluator called Artificial Analysis. Here's GPT 4.5, so this is their intelligence index, which incorporates 7 evaluations spanning reasoning, knowledge, math, and coding. Note that GPT 4.5 is all the way in 7th place, even behind Grok 3 and DeepSeek R1. So it's not really an impressive model, considering that it's not the smartest, but it is by far the most expensive. And that sums up all the highlights in AI this week. Let me know in the comments which is your favorite piece of news. Which tool are you most looking forward to trying out? As always, I will be on the lookout for the top AI news and tools to share with you. So if you enjoyed this video, remember to like, share, subscribe, and stay tuned for more content. Also, there's just so much happening in the world of AI every week. I can't possibly cover everything on my YouTube channel. So to really stay up to date with all that's going on in AI, be sure to subscribe to my free weekly newsletter. The link to that will be in the description below. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.